saxophone was the strong suit, or whatever your act might change depending on that. And they were as responsible for what you got from an audience and what you gave to an audience as anything else.
So, depending on what club you were working at, going from club to club, I would imagine that the musicianship would vary. Sometimes you might get booked into a club where the band was just horrible, and other clubs where they were just spot on and just really, really good, talented musicians.
I went into a club one time, and no matter what, I kind of gave them, just the regular stuff, the stripper and so on, just regular music that every band would know, and this band didn't know anything that I requested. So I said, okay, well, let's just go with what you do know.
Oh, that leads me to my next question then. What were your favorite tunes when you went into these clubs and went and approached the band? Now, the stripper obviously is the classic song for burlesque and stripping, but what other tunes did you like using in your act?
Well, I usually did a drum solo, so that would, that kind of beat of the drums, but I liked blues music, so I would ask them specifically, any blues that you know. I used to use Hello, Dolly, and one band in Boston, the singer asked me, would I mind if he changed it to Hello, Dusty? Oh, no, I wouldn't mind.
Of course
that was
not.
Great.
You're the star of the show. Why not?
Yeah, that was great. So I can't, it's kind of difficult because it's been so many years to actually think right offhand. Plus, I'm old now, and I forget things. But unfortunately, I didn't get as much live music as, for instance, April March did. I kind of got in on the tail end of that. So one week I might be working to a band, and the next week it would be the jukebox, and the next week it would be reel to reel, and the next, so you really wound up having a big variety of music.
Yeah, so you were in the business during that transitional phase then?
Yes. I caught the tail end of the burlesque comics. I had the privilege of working with Norma Jean and Art Watts and Monkey Kirkland. Monkey Kirkland, he was performing in Phoenix at Guys and Dolls when I was a little girl. My parents used to go there. So I thought that was pretty interesting, winding up as an adult working with him myself.
Now, all right. Everything old is new again. You were just saying the same things that April March had said, where you had all of these costumes and all of these props and all of these shoes, I would imagine. April says she had tons of shoes, and she thought, okay, well, this is a part of my past. It's taking up space. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of it. And lo and behold, she enters the world of social media, and all of these young girls find her and want to learn from her, and they're like, what do you mean you threw all this stuff out? These are classics. We want these. Oh, so everybody's just shedding a tear. She's like, how did I know? I should have known that I should have kept it. And you were saying the same thing. How you were just throwing out all of these costumes that you had used over the years and props, and now you're in the process of trying to accumulate them and get them back.
Well, recreated a few things, but even in the magic, that I got rid of, I've had to repurchase it back at about 10 times the price I sold it for, and 10 times the price I paid for it originally.
Yeah.
Plus, I found some things you cannot replace. In magic, for instance, there are some, I used to do a color-changing album routine to music from the entertainer, and I cannot replace the trick. I've been trying through everybody I know to replace it. Mine is pretty much worn out, and now I hear a good piece of advice, probably a good piece of advice in burlesque, magic, or anything else. If it's something in your act that you enjoy doing, goes over well, you better buy 2 of them.
Yeah, always have a backup plan.
Yes. Have a backup of, and I used to have backups of things. I used clearing and vanishing canes, and I always had an extra one in case somebody sat on one of mine, which did happen. But you learn. even us old people have to relearn now, you know.
What about some of the characters that you encountered over the years with these clubs? Any particular any run-ins or rendezvous with politicians and or celebrities, things like that?
You know, there weren't. I didn't run into that many politicians or celebrities, either one. Now, there used to be in Pensacola, Florida. There was a club there. I can't think of the name of the club. I think it's in the book somewhere. But the owner, it was Trader John's, I believe, and he was a character in himself. He wore 2 different colors socks with his shoes, and I guess he was a friend of. Besides being a friend of the military, he was also a big friend of all the newspaper writers and so on. So he had a very unique layout in his club, in that many of the tables were actually old treadle sewing machine tops and stuff like that. It was like an old warehouse. At night, he'd just take a hose to the floor and clean the place out. But it was a very popular night spot in Pensacola. And then there was, trying to think of her name. This is up in Arkansas many years ago. One of the politicians was involved with a dancer who apparently wasn't very good, but, you know, if you had I guess if you got yourself involved with a politician, you didn't have to do all that.
Well, okay, that takes us back to April, March. You're talking about Wilbur Mills. Wilbur Mills was the politician. He was on the Ways and Means Committee in Washington. He was a very powerful position, and he was trying to date April March. She was playing the clubs in D.C., and as the story goes, and he was a bit of a drunk, so she didn't want anything to do with him, so she passed him off to Fanny Fox.
Yeah, that was the name of the girl.
Fanny
Fox was going to be appearing in Little Rock shortly after I did, and this was I can't think of the name of the hotel. It seems like it might have been Edison or something, but it was a hotel that had been condemned, and the only thing left in it was the nightclub, which was in the basement. And they were very excited about having her come in because of the name.
Right.
But later on, I heard, the customers weren't quite so excited after she got there. She had the name recognition, but she didn't have an act to go with it. She was not really able to go any place with it because she just didn't have the,
Yeah, she had the hype, but not the talent.
Yeah.
I was telling April because I remember the story as a young boy reading it. It was on the television. It was a big news story. April had passed him off, saying, "Listen, leave me alone. Go date Fanny Fox, and just leave me alone." So he started dating Fanny Fox, and he got stopped by the police in D.C. With Fanny Fox in the passenger seat. He was drunk at the time. So they arrested him, and to try to avoid any publicity, she jumps out of the car and tried to jump into a ravine to get away from the media. But it didn't work, and the story got out about the affair that they were having, and I told April, I said, this was the Monica Lewinsky story of its day, because it almost essentially ruined his political career. And he had to reconcile the fact that he was an alcoholic, and he essentially went back to Arkansas and lived out the rest of his life in Arkansas. But yeah, he was in love with Fanny Fox, and it was just this really big news story. So, you were close. If you had dated Wilbur, it would have been you.
Well, I was married. Actually, most of the time that I was performing, I was married to somebody. So, and I was married during that time, and I remember. I never got to meet her. I just remember the talk about her.
Right. Yeah, she got a lot of national publicity from that. So
yeah.
But that's what happened. Those were the days, and stuff like that. A politician got caught with a stripper. So it always makes headlines. It's always good fodder for the papers.
Yeah, and I remember there was Blaze Starr, and she was one of the girls that one of my agents handled. His name was Saul Goodman. This was in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yep.
And I know that she'd had an affair with, I guess it was a governor, and they even made that one into a movie. But my understanding was she also was a very well-regarded performer. So that makes that kind of notoriety last a lot longer. You know, if you have both a name recognition and an act to go with it.
Well, I want to know about you. Okay, when did you start writing a column for the Vegas Visitor? When did you first start writing?
Well, I believe I started writing a column in about 75 or something like that, about 1975. I had a small newspaper. I'd written a column already in Phoenix, Arizona, called As It Is, I think it was called. And then I had a newspaper by that name in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And I was married to a magician comedian. And when we moved out here...
Turban?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I was going to ask you if you were married to Turban, Professor Turban.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And we came to Las Vegas, and actually we weren't getting along so terribly well, and I guess he figured if he went down there, he knew I liked to write, because obviously we had that newspaper for a short time. He went down to the Vegas Visitor, and he told them about me, and that's how I started writing for them. But I wrote the column every week, Magical World of Burlesque, and it was all kinds of burlesque performing. And also, I wrote about other people for them at the same time, because some of like Julie Wolfe was a publicity agent for some other people, like Fred Travelina, and I think it was Joey Bishop. And so I did stories on the side, you know, because they pay these publicity agents money every time they can get their name in the paper.
Yeah.
They reach out to anybody who is writing for a paper, and that was fun.
How long did you write the column for?
Oh, I think probably about 2 years.
About 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, you were still performing in the clubs.
Oh yeah, some people didn't realize when they met me, they didn't realize I was a performer. They thought I was just a writer. And then most of the people who knew me as a performer, they knew that I wrote the column, because it used to be a standard joke, be careful what you say in the dressing room, she might have it in the column next week. So, and I might, it would just depend. I have a good memory for conversations, even though sometimes I have a little more difficulty remembering who it was that said it, so I had to sometimes go back and verify. But it was fun. It gave me a chance to learn more about the girls that I worked with, or, you know, that was fun too.
Okay, this husband of yours, this Professor Turban, you weren't doing magic until you met him.
Right.
Okay, so when you met him, what did your act consist of before you met him?
What I was known for was the shimmy, a drum solo, and that was what I was known for, and doing I guess you'd call it a walking strip, but I was also a decent dancer. I wasn't a trained dancer, but I had good timing and that sort of thing. So, and I was known for the shimmy. Then when I met him, he's the one that kept saying, why don't you put some magic in your act? And I began setting his props for him. So I got an opportunity to work with the birds. And so little by little, I think the first thing I added was the canes, an appearing and vanishing cane. And then I added the doves, which is what I became known for, which is the last number. If you've looked on YouTube, you will see that number in reproduced, for what I'm doing today when I do the burlesque conventions here in Las Vegas. It's a little more difficult now to travel with birds and so on the plane than it used to be.
Right.
Another big change,
Yeah, post 9/11, yeah.
So when I'm in Boston, I don't take the birds with me because it's just too problematic. But when I do the exotic world here, I do the birds in the show because that's what I wound up being most well known for, producing and vanishing the doves at the end of the act. And we would say it was done totally nude, but it wasn't really quite totally nude, but nude enough to count.
Nude enough to count. I think that's what it should say on the billboard. Nude enough to count. Dusty Summers, nude enough to count.
So when I worked at Club Juana in Orlando, Florida, the guy that ran the spotlight, he was right almost up above me, straight up above me, forward but straight up above me. So, he could look down on me as well as he